I used to call him Uncle Blake until the night he kissed me, and I didn't stop him. My name is Olivia Raymond. I was 22 when it happened. Beautiful, smart, with a future ahead of me, the kind of girl who knew better. But sometimes knowing better isn't enough, especially when the man standing in your living room is your father's best friend, tall, commanding, freshly divorced, and nothing like the men my age. It started on a Friday. My dad, Raymond, had just returned from a business trip with his best friend of over 25 years, Blake Anderson. To the world, they were brothers in everything but blood. To me, Blake was the man who taught me how to ride a bike, brought me candy as a child, and always smelled like pine wood and power. But that Friday, I noticed something else. His eyes lingered. Just a second too long. "Liv," he said with that deep, gravelly voice. "You've grown into such a stunning woman." I laughed nervously. "Thanks, Uncle Blake." But he didn't laugh back. He just stared, like he saw something he knew he shouldn't want. That night they all drank. Dad, Blake, and my mother, Naomi, pretending like everything was perfect. But I noticed how Naomi didn't even look at my dad anymore. They argued in whispers. Her smile was fake. My dad, oblivious, laughed louder to fill the cracks. I excused myself early, heading upstairs, hoping sleep would silence the strange electric pulse in my chest. But it was past midnight when I heard the knock on my door. I froze, opened it slowly. There he stood. Mr. Blake, shirt untucked, hair slightly messy, eyes red, but not from alcohol, from feeling. "Sorry," he said. "Toe just wanted to check if you were okay. You looked a little off earlier." I nodded slowly, but instead of walking away, he stepped in. Silence stretched. I didn't move. Neither did he. "You're not a little girl anymore, Liv." His voice was low, broken, and I'm not sure I'm strong enough to ignore that. Then it happened. Slow, deliberate. He kissed me, and God help me, I kissed him back. Just then, my bedroom door creaked. Footsteps passed in the hallway. We froze, heartbeats pounding like thunder. "We can't do this," I whispered. "I know," he said, breathing heavily. "But that doesn't mean I don't want to." I told myself it was just a kiss, but his eyes told me he wanted everything. The morning after the kiss, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I brushed my teeth like it would erase the taste of him, washed my lips like they'd forget it the way he pressed his against mine. But every part of me remembered. Every damn part. Downstairs, the smell of grilled chicken and charcoal meant only one thing: Dad's annual backyard barbecue. And guess who was still here? Blake, dressed in fitted jeans, a casual button-up with the sleeves rolled, and aviators that didn't hide the way he looked at me when no one else was watching. "Good morning, sweetheart," my mom, Naomi, chirped, tossing me a plate. "Can you help Blake set up the drinks outside?" Of course, because the universe loves playing games. I walked toward the cooler by the garden, and there he was, bent over, stacking beer bottles, forearms flexing, jaw tense. He didn't turn around when I approached. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, not looking at me. "I didn't sleep," I whispered. His hands froze mid-movement. Me neither. We didn't speak for a moment, but the silence screamed. He turned, finally, his voice barely audible. "I shouldn't have kissed you, but you did." He swallowed. "And I'd do it again." Just then, a shadow passed the rose bushes. I turned quickly. It was Ethan, my ex-boyfriend. Invited out of pity by my dad, apparently. He stood at a distance, arms crossed, watching us with narrowed eyes. I stepped back from Blake. Too late. Later that afternoon, the tension reached boiling point. While everyone laughed over grilled corn and gossip, Ethan approached me behind the shed. "You're playing a dangerous game, Liv." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I saw the way you looked at him and how he looked at you." I panicked. "It's not what you think." He leaned in closer. "I think your dad's best friend has a thing for you, and I think you like it." I opened my mouth to argue, but paused, because behind Ethan, standing just out of earshot, was Naomi. My mother, eyes narrowed, watching us, watching me. And I knew in that moment, this wasn't just a fling. This was about to explode. You can lie with your lips, but your mother will always read your silence. Later that evening, the house felt colder, even though the grill was still hot outside. People came and went. Laughter echoed across the backyard. But I felt her eyes on me. My mother. She stood near the patio doors, wine glass in hand, her smile frozen in place. But her gaze, locked on me, she knew something. Or maybe she just felt it, the way mothers do. That sixth sense that told her her daughter was unraveling quietly. And the reason? The man laughing beside my father. Blake moved like nothing had happened, as if he hadn't stolen a kiss, as if he hadn't shaken the walls of everything I believed about loyalty. But every time our eyes met, there was a spark, a dangerous one, and someone else had noticed. Ethan. He cornered me again by the hallway while I was refilling my drink. "He's not just your dad's friend, Liv. He's your godfather, for God's sake." I glared at him. "Why do you care?" "Because if this explodes, and it will, everyone gets burned, especially you." Suddenly, a voice from behind. "What explodes?" It was my mother, calm, sharp-eyed, pretending to be casual. Ethan froze. I turned to her slowly, forcing a smile. "Nothing. Ethan's just being dramatic. He thinks I'm dating someone terrible." She tilted her head, studied me. "Are you?" I laughed. Too quickly. "No, Mom, it's not like that." But she didn't move. She just looked at Ethan, then me, then behind me. And I knew. She had seen Blake watching us again. That glance wasn't friendly. It was possessive. After the party died down and guests started to leave, Blake caught me in the corridor near the guest room. "Meet me tomorrow," he said. "The old cabin, outside town. Just us. No eyes. No pretending." I hesitated. But before I could answer, Olivia. It was my mother again, her voice tight, curious. I turned, heart pounding. "Yeah, Mom? Who were you talking to?" I looked back. Blake was gone. Just the hallway. Empty. Quiet. "No one," I lied. But I could feel her suspicion rising. And I knew that if I wasn't careful, my mother wouldn't just find out. She'd destroy us both. I thought I was playing with fire. But the truth was, I had already stepped into the flames. The cabin was exactly how I remembered it from childhood, dusty, quiet, surrounded by nothing but trees and memories. Back then, it was where our families took weekend trips, roasting marshmallows, laughing over card games. Now, it was where I came to confront the man I should have run from. Blake stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, eyes tired but intense. "You came," he said softly. "I shouldn't have," I replied. But I walked in anyway. The silence between us throbbed like a bruise. I could smell cedar, old smoke, and his cologne. That scent always undid me. This needs to stop, I said, though my voice barely held. He stepped closer. Then why did you come? I didn't have an answer, because every part of me screamed no except my heartbeat, which whispered, yes. This isn't just lust, Olivia, he said finally. I need you to understand something. I folded my arms. Understand what? He took a breath. I left town 3 years ago to protect you. My heart paused. Protect me? He nodded slowly. I saw you, changing, maturing, becoming this version of yourself that I couldn't look at without guilt. It terrified me. I thought if I left, the feelings would fade. But they didn't, he added. They got worse. I stared at him in disbelief. So you knew? You knew this was wrong and you still came back? Your father begged me, he said. Said he needed help with the business. That he missed me. That the family wasn't the same without me. I tried to stay away. God, I tried. He sat on the couch, head in his hands. But the moment I saw you, I knew I was in trouble. I swallowed hard. You're the only man who ever made me feel safe, even before I understood what that meant. But now I'm drowning in guilt, Blake. I feel like I'm betraying everyone. He stood up, walked over slowly, then whispered, what if I said I'd walk away from everything? Your father, the business, the city. Just to be with you, openly. My breath caught, because I hadn't expected that. Not the offer, not the depth, and not the look in his eyes that said he meant it. But before I could speak, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. Where are you? Followed by another. Your father just asked me if you've seen Blake. He's not answering his phone. My throat dried. If they found out we were together, this wouldn't just break my parents. It would break everything. I got home just before sunset. My hands were still trembling as I unlocked the front door. Inside, the air felt heavy, like someone had already cried here, or was about to. I didn't see my mom in the kitchen, or my dad in the living room, but I could hear soft voices upstairs. So I climbed the steps, hoping, praying that Blake had gotten away unseen. My bedroom door was slightly ajar, and there she was, my mother, sitting at my desk, holding a manila envelope. Her face looked unreadable, but her hands, tight fists. Where were you today, Olivia? I blinked. At the bookstore, I lied. She reached into the envelope, pulled out a photo, and held it in the air like a sword. It was me and Blake, at the cabin, standing too close, his hand brushing mine. My eyes, not looking like a niece. Try again, she said quietly. I swallowed. What is this? It's what I paid for, she snapped. I hired someone last week. The way you were looking at him during the barbecue. I knew something was off. She stood, voice trembling now. That man has been around since you were a baby, Olivia. Do you know what this looks like? Do you know what this means? I didn't answer, because every word I had died in my throat. You've shamed this family, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to happen, I finally choked out. It wasn't planned. We didn't sleep together? Yet? She cut in. That's supposed to make this better? Tears burned down my cheeks. I love him, Mom. Silence. Just one long, thick moment of it. Then she said, your father can never know. I stared. What? He will never recover from this. He sees Blake as a brother. You tell him and you'll destroy everything. She placed the envelope down. End it, or I will. She walked out, leaving me breathless. That night, Blake called. I didn't answer. Because I was already holding the photo. Proof, guilt, desire, captured, forever. And I knew this was no longer a secret. It was a loaded gun. I thought falling for him was the scandal, but the real betrayal was buried in my own bloodline. For 3 days, I ignored every call from Blake, blocked his number, deleted his texts, not because I wanted to, but because my mother had made it clear one more step and she'd tell my father everything. And I wasn't ready to lose him. I wasn't ready to become the villain in my own home. On the fourth day, I was leaving my literature class on campus when I saw him. Blake, leaning against his black Mercedes, sunglasses hiding those eyes I knew too well. "Olivia, you shouldn't be here," I said quickly, heart racing. "I couldn't leave it like that. I need 5 minutes." I hesitated. 5 minutes? We sat on the wooden bench near the old amphitheater, a quiet corner of campus. No one visited this late. He didn't touch me, didn't look at me too long. He just pulled something from his jacket, a folded letter, worn at the edges. "Read this when you're alone," he said. "And then call me, or don't. But you deserve the truth." He left before I could ask anything else. And I stared at the letter the entire way home. I didn't open it until midnight. It wasn't handwritten. It was typed, clean, precise. A DNA result. At first, I didn't understand. The names, the formatting, then the words hit me. Paternity test result. Raymond, alleged father, excluded. My breath left my body. What? The letter continued. The subject, Olivia Raymond, does not share a biological paternal relationship with Raymond Anderson. At the bottom, Blake's name. And one more line. Result, probability of paternity, 99.998%. I dropped the paper. My legs gave out beneath me. No, no, no. It couldn't be. It shouldn't be. I was Blake's daughter? Then why the kiss? The looks? The confessions? My phone buzzed. A message from Blake. "Now you understand why I ran. Your mother never told either of us until a year ago. She begged me to keep it secret. But I couldn't lie to you forever. I couldn't breathe. Because this wasn't a forbidden love story anymore. This was a shattered identity. And I was falling for the man who might be my real father. She didn't just lie to protect me. She lied to protect herself." I stormed into the living room. My mother was seated on the couch, sipping tea as if nothing was burning around us. "Tell me the truth," I said, holding up the paper, shaking. She didn't even blink. "So he gave it to you. You're not even going to deny it?" She placed the teacup down carefully. "Deny what, Olivia? That Blake is your biological father? That the man upstairs who raised you like his own never knew the truth?" My knees gave way, and I slumped into the chair across from her. "Why? Why would you keep that from me? From Dad? From him?" She sighed. "Because I was 23, naive, caught between two best friends." Her voice was too calm for my liking. "Raymond was safe. Blake was fire. We were all in the same friend group. I slept with both of them during a 2-week gap. Found out I was pregnant. Took a guess. And married the one who offered stability." I stared at her like I didn't know who she was. "You guessed? I didn't know who the father was, Olivia. And once I realized the timing lined up with Blake, I buried it." Tears flooded my face. "You let me grow up calling Blake uncle. It was easier." "For who?" For me, she stood now. I loved your father, but Blake was always the one who haunted me. I thought I could forget him. But you? Her voice cracked. You look too much like him. Every year it got harder to lie. I choked on a sob. Why didn't you ever tell him? Why now? Because Blake took that test himself, found out on his own, then confronted me. She walked closer. And you think he's noble for telling you, but he's not. He's selfish. He kissed his own daughter, Olivia. I stood. He didn't know. Neither did you, but now you do. She pointed to the letter. So what now? You still in love with him? Still want to run away and play house? Her words were venom. But the worst part? They were right. I ran out of the house, down the street, to the edge of the park where I used to play as a child back when everything was simpler. And in that moment, with the wind tearing through me and the sky darkening above, I realized something chilling. My life had been a lie, built on silence, maintained by guilt, protected by secrets. But Blake and I, we weren't done yet. The next morning I texted Blake, meet me, same place, 10 a.m. No response. But he came anyway. I waited at the edge of the park, hands cold, eyes red from crying, heart heavy with questions. He arrived in his usual way, silent, steady, composed. But there was something different in his face today. Not desire, fear. I read it, I said quietly. He nodded. I figured. We stood in silence for a moment, the wind whistling between us like a witness. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I finally asked. Because I was afraid I'd lose you. His voice cracked. I didn't want to believe it myself. When I saw the results, I thought, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe there's a catch. But your mother confirmed it. Every word. I swallowed. So everything we felt, this entire thing, was built on a lie. No, he said, stepping forward. It was built on something real. We just didn't know where it came from. I looked at him, really looked. Blake wasn't a monster. He wasn't grooming me. He wasn't even chasing anything inappropriate. He was running from the same lie I had been raised inside. So what do we do now? I asked, barely a whisper. He pulled something from his jacket, a second envelope. This is from a private lab. I ordered a second test because I needed to be sure. I opened it, scanned the results, stopped at the words, probability of paternity, 0.00%. I looked up. But what? Your mother lied again, he said, voice heavy. Raymond is your biological father. She lied to both of us. I staggered back. My knees nearly gave out. So you're not? No, he said firmly. Not your father. Not even close. She wanted to punish me for leaving, for not choosing her. So she let us both think the worst. I broke. The sob that ripped through me was so raw it scared even me. He caught me as I fell, held me tightly to his chest. I would never have touched you if I thought for a second. I know, I sobbed. I know. We stood like that for a long time. No labels, no lies. Just two broken people trying to survive a love story that was almost forbidden. But now it was real. And no one could stop it. Not your father. Not even close. She wanted to punish me for leaving, for not choosing her. So she let us both think the worst. I broke. The sob that ripped through me was so raw it scared even me. He caught me as I fell, held me tightly to his chest. I would never have touched you if I thought for a second. I know, I sobbed. I know. We stood like that for a long time. No labels, no lies. Just two broken people trying to survive a love story that was almost forbidden. But now it was real, and no one could stop it. I waited until dinner. The table was set, the lights dimmed, and Mom was unusually quiet. She knew. She knew I knew everything. And Dad? He just looked tired. I studied him. This man raised me with laughter, with bedtime stories and scraped knee bandages. And yet, I now wondered, what didn't I know about him? Dad, I said, setting down my fork, we need to talk. He looked up. My mom shifted uncomfortably in her seat. About what, sweetheart? About Blake. And about me. His fork paused midair. What about Blake? I looked directly at my mom. She refused to meet my gaze. So I told him. Everything. The kiss. The confusion. The DNA test. The lie. The second test. His hands trembled. He slowly wiped his mouth with the napkin and pushed his chair back. I knew, he said softly. My breath caught. What? Not all of it, but I knew she lied to him about the timing, about the possibility that I wasn't your father. My mom's head whipped toward him. Raymond! Don't, he snapped. He looked at me again, voice calm but shaking. I saw the way you and Blake looked at each other during that party. It hit me like lightning. So I did what a father does. I protected what was mine. I confronted her that same night. She admitted it. My hands clenched. So you let me believe I was falling in love with my own father? He shook his head firmly. No, I had a second test done, weeks ago. I just hadn't figured out how to tell you. He walked over to a cabinet and pulled out a sealed envelope. Same results. Same conclusion. Blake was not my father. My mother sat silently, eyes dark. You both lied to me, I whispered. I lied, Dad said, because I didn't want you to hate her. And because I saw something in Blake's eyes I never expected. Regret. I knew he still loved your mother. And I knew you weren't safe if he hadn't faced that yet. What are you saying? I asked, barely breathing. I'm saying I didn't want you to be another replacement. Silence. Then, with one final breath, he added, but if what he feels for you is real, then you deserve to know all of the truth. And that's when he dropped it. Blake and your mom were engaged. Years before she met me. She broke it off when he left for London. When he came back, she was already with me. My world tilted again. Because now, I wasn't just caught between two men. I was the product of a history I never asked for. And I had no idea what to do with it. If I let him go now, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. I stood outside the cabin again. The one that once felt like temptation. Now it felt like grief. Because this wasn't a reunion. It was a goodbye. Blake was already inside. He looked different, tired, quiet, like he'd been carrying the weight of 1,000 regrets. He didn't smile when I walked in, just looked at me with the eyes of a man who knew time had run out. You talked to them? He asked. I nodded. They both knew? He laughed bitterly. Of course they did. I stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me you were once engaged to my mother? He sighed. Because that part of my life is the one thing I wish I could erase. Not because I didn't love her, but because she never really loved me. She was using me to forget someone else. Maybe your dad, maybe her loneliness. I was convenient. He turned away. But you were never convenient. You were impossible. And I tried, Olivia. God knows I tried to bury this feeling. I was shaking now, because I knew what was coming. He picked up a packed duffel bag. I'm leaving. For real this time. Where? Somewhere far enough to forget you. Or try to. My voice cracked. Don't. He paused. Don't what? Don't leave like this. Not before I say what I came here to say. He turned around, slow, cautious. I walked up to him until there was only air between us. Then I whispered, I love you. He didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even breathe. So I said it again, louder, braver. I love you, Blake. Not because you were my father's friend, not because you were mysterious, but because when I was falling apart, you were the only one who saw me. Tears welled in his eyes. And then he dropped the bag. He kissed me. No hesitation, no guilt, just truth. Pure, raw, beautiful truth. We didn't sleep together that night. We just held each other. Two hearts that had been through hell, finally beating in rhythm. I was at the coffee shop the next morning when my phone began buzzing nonstop. Calls, texts, group chats blowing up. At first, I thought someone died. Then I clicked one message from an old high school friend. Girl, is this you? Attached was a photo. Me and Blake. At the cabin, his hand on my waist. My face tilted toward his, eyes soft, lips parted. It was intimate, unmistakable, and viral. My stomach dropped. How? My head spun. The only people who had those photos were Blake, my mother, and the PI she hired. My heart slammed against my ribs. She did this. My own mother. I ran home. She was in the garden, looking proud, peaceful, like she had finally gotten what she wanted. How could you? I shouted. She barely turned around. You didn't listen, so I made sure you had no choice. You ruined my life. No, Olivia, you ruined his. My husband, your father. The door slammed behind me as I left, but the damage was done. That night I met Blake at a motel outside town. He'd seen the photos too, but worse, he'd received a letter from my father. He handed it to me without a word. I read it aloud. I loved you like a brother, and you touched my daughter. There's no forgiveness for that. You're dead to me. Tears blurred my vision. Blake sat down, back against the wall. I should have known this wouldn't end in peace. We didn't do anything wrong, I whispered. Doesn't matter, he said. Truth doesn't always matter. Perception does. I crawled into his arms. For the first time since this all began, I felt like a villain. Not because we sinned, but because we were too honest, too late. I didn't lose him because we sinned. I lost him because we dared to feel something real in a world that refused to understand it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in Blake's arms while his chest rose and fell, slow, calm, like he had already made peace with something I hadn't even begun to accept. By morning, he was gone. No note, no goodbye, just silence. I rushed back home, panic filling my lungs. My dad was waiting. He sat in the study, the same place he used to help me with school projects, the same place he laughed when I got my first crush in high school. Now his eyes didn't carry laughter, only loss. Dad, sit. I did. He placed a glass of water in front of me. Didn't speak for a full minute. Then, do you love him? I blinked. Yes. He nodded. Then I have only one thing to say. My heartbeat thundered. If you choose him, if you stay in, this don't come back here. It felt like ice. His words were cold, but his eyes were worse. Empty. You're choosing to become the story people will whisper about for years. And I refuse to be part of that. You're my daughter, he added, voice softer now. But I can't love you and accept this. Not both. I couldn't breathe. Because he wasn't yelling. He wasn't slamming doors. He was just done. Where is he? I asked quietly. He stood, walked to the fireplace mantel, and tossed a folded paper into the flames. Far enough that you'll never find him. That's what he said when he came to say goodbye. I lunged toward the fire, but it was too late. The address, his destination, was already curling into ash. I turned to my father, eyes burning. You think you're protecting me, but all you've done is take away the only person who's ever made me feel seen. You'll thank me one day, he said. No, I whispered. I won't. And I walked out. 3 months passed. I lived out of a suitcase, crashing on couches, taking odd freelance jobs, writing in my journal like it was oxygen. I stopped checking my social media, stopped answering calls from my parents, because after everything, I needed to become someone who didn't need permission to love. Then one morning, while cleaning out my inbox, I saw it, a message from a small bookstore in Hermanus, South Africa. Just a sentence. There's a man here who comes every Tuesday, reads poetry, looks like he's running from the world. My heart stopped. Blake. I booked the flight. 12 hours later, I landed in a sleepy coastal town kissed by ocean mist and quiet regrets. The bookstore was tucked in a corner alley, lined with cracked tiles and dreams. And there he was, sitting cross-legged by the poetry shelf, reading Neruda. He didn't see me at first, but when he did, his eyes changed, like a storm finally calming. Hi, I whispered. You found me. You made it really hard. He laughed, quiet, disbelieving. I didn't think you'd still want me. I stepped forward. You never gave me the choice. We sat together in silence. No explanations. No apologies. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a letter. I wrote this every day for 3 months, but I never sent it. I handed it to him. He opened it and read, Dear Blake, I hated you for leaving. I hated my father for protecting me in the wrong way. I hated my mother for turning our love into a weapon. But mostly, I hated how long it took me to realize that love like ours doesn't come twice. If you're still out there, still haunted, still hurting, I want you to know, I love you. Not as a scandal, not as a mistake, but as my choice. Come home, or let me build a new one with you. He looked up, eyes full, voice shaking. Stay. I smiled. I already did.